Glenn Shorrock has written and sung the songs that have been the soundtrack of life of millions around the world. He started with the Twilights, then Axiom, and of course the Little River Band. We'll chat with Glenn in just a moment, but first let's look back at some of his greatest hits.
Sunshine has come into the world. A little ray of sunshine in the shape of a girl. I'll be home on a Monday, somewhere around noon. Please don't be angry, I'll be back with you real soon.
Autobiography, Now Where Was I? And he joins us now. Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. Now, you've just written this autobiography and you've said how much you love others' autobiographies like Stephen Fry's and Peter Ustinov. Why now? Why have you done your own now?
It's about time to talk about myself before I forget it all, basically. That's why it's now, where was I? I mean, I think we can all relate to that phrase, can't we?
Well, you're looking at me when you say that. Certainly, yeah, where was I?
When we look at those great clips,
And they are fantastic.
and we see you with teeny bopper phase in the Twilights, and then your George Harrison phase, as you called it, in Axiom, and
I'm in my Boy George phase.
Boy Miss Rockstar phase in the Little River Band. You know, three huge bands.
I've been lucky, haven't I?
Yeah, but you also, that singles you out in the music biz. That is a very rare thing.
In some ways, three bands that have made it to the top and had careers and whatever, but life goes on, and I'm enjoying my life now away from bands. I mean, I work with bands, obviously, musicians, but not a band anymore. But life's very good.
Kind of looking at that stuff. I mean, it's like watching the history of rock and roll. Like, yes, like you've been everywhere. Your life is kind of like I don't know, is almost the embodiment of how music has progressed. When you call the autobiography Now Where Was I? Is it true that if you really were in the 60s, you couldn't remember it?
I remember the 60s pretty well, actually.
The 70s?
The 70s is a problem.
and you worked and became friends with the Birtles producer, George Martin, yes? I think we've got a photo of you with him.
Yeah.
Now have a look at you. Like, it's a sort of Where's Wally question.
That's my Tony Abbott
you
period.
up the back. How come you're the only one in everyone else has got clothes on? What's going on with you hanging about in your Speedos?
Oh, I don't know, showing off as usual.
Because Denise is a former nudist as well.
That's George in the back there, obviously, and he passed away last year, sadly. He was the most impressive man I think I've ever met and ever worked with. In what way? Oh, just his professionalism, his poise, calm, and extremely talented, and he loved a martini.
Ticked every box.
That's right. And he was extremely thoughtful. He was classically trained, and so he brought this whole dimension to the Beatles and to you, of course, as well. Now, the music business is obviously just that, a business, but getting sacked from your own band, the Little River Band, when you were the band. I know, how dare they? And then replaced by Johnny Farnham. I mean, look what happened to him. That never worked out. But that must have been, and you see it happening with bands all the time, that must have been a shock. I mean, it must have been hurtful. What was it?
All of the above. Yeah, irritating, whatever. But it's 15 years on now. I mean, I've been in and out of that band 3 times.
Yeah, I know.
I call it the revolving door.
It's a little revolving band.
But, the core of the band, Birtles, Shorrock, Goble, Pellicci, and then later Briggs and McCardle, that was a classic lineup. And, we had great hits and great journeys around the world and sold, 38 million records and got to the top of the charts. That's when the trouble started.
But you are the band. I mean, to anyone with half a brain, the band is you. There cannot be an LRB without you. Do you think music has been ruined by lawyers and lawsuits and people claiming copyright over a name when you wouldn't recognise the people in the band who have the rights to the name? You know what I mean?
Well, it certainly confused me at the time. I just went, what? I've written in the book about it, mainly because the whole legality of it still confuses me.
Yeah.
So you lost the naming rights to LRB, is that it?
Yes, that's right, the brand name, Little River Band. I can't call myself Little River Band. I can put a band together and do that. He can, the guy that's got the rights to it.
Who tours in America under
And that's
that
what he's
name.
doing.
That's right. It'd be as though Lennon and McCartney lost the rights to the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's anyway.
Life goes on, you know what I mean? That's what happens.
Yeah. You wrote a song called Cool Change, which is one of my favourite songs of all time, and it was actually voted when APRA turned 30 as one of the greatest Australian songs of all time. What did it mean to you? Because you've sung so many pivotal songs. What did it mean to you that a song that you wrote was picked in that?
As a songwriter, it's great to connect with people and have them understand what I'm all about. And that's a very personal song. That was at a time when I thought Little River Band should have taken a hiatus and went off the road and smelled the roses, spend the money, you know, because we were pretty successful around that time. But I just felt that I was getting a bit tired, you know, because I've been frontman of 3 bands now, and I'm the one that's out front doing all of that, and then you come here and do this sort of stuff, you know. When you're a bass player, you can just sit back and...
But do you still, because you've done so many fantastic performances, and do you still enjoy that side of it?
The singing, I love singing.
Yeah.
That's why I got into it. I just found I could sing well.
And you still love it?
Yeah, I do.
And what about the stories people tell you about those big songs? I mean, Reminiscing, Little Ray of Sunshine. Everyone has stories that go with these sort of songs. Do they share them with you?
People,
fans.
Oh, Little Ray of Sunshine. How many? I'd love $1 for... Hang on, I've got $1 now. I'd love $1 for every time someone says, "You won't believe this, but when my daughter was born..." And then I finish the sentence. You know?
I'm going to give you $1 now because that's what
That's
we did
lovely.
when Amelia
That's
was
lovely.
born. It was Pete's ringtone.
Beautiful.
Well, Brian wrote that. Cad wrote that. Yeah. The Cad Man.
But it's...
He's all right too.
We get together once a year.
Yeah.
Like Christmas. Guess what part he plays?
Santa, he's got the big bush in the ear.
He's bad Santa, and I'm his little elf. Cisco and Pancho, we call ourselves.
I read the book on the weekend, Glenn, and I love it. And it's just full of fabulous behind-the-scenes Aussie classic rock stories. And it's
No, I'm just pleased with the quality and the feel of it. It's lovely to have...
The paper quality is excellent.
Denise is lost in hearing. Well, Glenn's autobiography, Now Where Was I, is out now. Get your hands on it and please get your hands together and thank Glenn.